comics too. Let's all go watch the review. Yeah.
Hello everyone, I am Laser Dude, and welcome to the list that has been so long in the making, 5 years in the making. It is Laser Dude's Top 50 Animated Superheroes Episodes list, and I am here to give you the best of the best, okay? Because, let me just tell you, there's not a whole lot of things I can call myself an expert in. You know, I'm not that much of an expert in comic books. I'm only a good... I know more than the average Joe, but I don't know more than everybody. I know a lot about, movies, but I don't know everything about movies. But the one thing that I could almost call myself an expert in would be superhero animation, because this is the thing that I am into the most. I got so many animated series episodes. I know almost all of them. I know which ones sucked. I know which ones are good. And I know that I can give you guys, if not the definitive list, pretty dang close to the definitive list of the top 50 greatest animated superheroes episodes, and so that is what I am here to give you today. But before we get into the list, I want to establish a few ground rules. Number one, no anime. Mostly because the anime structure, some of you might know, I've actually started to get into My Hero Academia, but the anime structure stretches episodes so long, so like one entire episode can be a fight. Heck, sometimes three episodes can just be like one fight. And so it's hard for me to distinguish the individual episodes in there. It's like, well, I don't remember individual episodes from the show My Hero Academia. I remember story arcs and the arcs that go on with it. So, and if I include My Hero Academia, that's like the one anime show I did. So that's excluding a lot of other stuff. I'm sure I have superhero stuff in them. So I'm like, no, let's just keep it to all stuff from the normal age of comic books, keeping it, this is mostly going to be DC and Marvel stuff, with a few exceptions here and there, but not too many. But this is going to be focusing on their adaptations, so if you're looking for anything like that, then we have stuff for you, but if you're looking for something a little bit with more of a wider scope, then I can't really give that to you. Number two. The second thing you have to know is that for two-parters, I'm counting them as one episode. And there's some stories in this, some episodes in this that I'm counting as a two-parter, even though they're not official two-parter, because they're basically telling the same story. So yeah, I'm counting those as one episode. You wouldn't, like, for example, most of the episodes of Justice League is separated into three parts. So would I have to distinguish which part of these three parts is the best part? That's getting way too complicated. So if it's a two-parter or three-parter or whatever, I'm counting it all as one. Next, I want to make sure that you guys know it has to be a superhero show. Not just a show with characters with powers. Like, for example, Avatar The Last Airbender is about a bunch of heroes with powers that are fighting off an evil warlord, and they can shoot fire and wind and water and whatnot. But the thing is, it's still not a superhero show because it's not in the superhero format. It has to at least be semi in the superhero format for me to consider it a superhero show. Otherwise, it's not going to be on this list. It's going to be something that you can categorize as a superhero show. I'm not going to snitch in other shows that I like just because I want to fit them on this list. It has to be in the superhero genre, and is that it? Rule number 4, movies count only if they were episodes first. For example, the Superman-Batman movie, that was technically a three-parter for Superman the Animated Series that they put into a movie and sold as a movie. So while it technically is a movie, it was originally episodes first and then put into a movie. Where something like Batman Mask of the Phantasm was made as a movie, had a movie budget, and was actually released in theaters, so that doesn't count as an episode of a show. Neither does Batman Beyond Return of the Joker, Sub-Zero, all those other straight-to-DVD sort of things. Those are not episodes, those are movies, so those don't count. Movies only count if they were episodes first. Oh, and I know that some of you are just watching this list because you want to see your favorite episode or characters on this list, and so I decided to do something that's going to make it a little bit easier, so whether, you know, because this is going to be a long video, so if you see this little symbol right here, this is my Best in Show award, and that means that this is the highest episode from this series that is going to be on the list. Basically, if you're expecting to see multiple from this series and I only get like one, then, you know, you can be like, okay, well, this guy isn't watching the shows that I actually like or doesn't like the shows I like. So this is the Best in Show little seal there. And yeah, I'm just trying to think, is there anything else? I've been waiting to do this list for so long, it's hard for me to believe this is actually happening. And last of all, while I did take in consideration a lot of the older shows like Spider-Man the Animated Series and X-Men the Animated Series, those shows, while some of the stories were really good, a lot of the times their voice acting just didn't cut it. And so while I did watch them and take them under consideration, you're not going to really find a lot of those types of shows on this list. This is mostly going to be newer from 90s on, and I know like X-Men was like later 90s on. Anyways, okay, there's going to be exceptions, okay? Batman the Animated Series, that's going to be on this list. But there's just some of the older shows where the voice acting people were still doing the superhero voice. Stop, villain! You know, so they don't hold up as well as some of the newer shows that can take it more seriously. But not saying this is all going to be new stuff either, I'm just letting you know. And now that we finally have the full scope of everything, I've delayed long enough, I've waited long enough, this is Laser Dude's Top 50 Animated Superhero Episodes. Let's do this. Oh, and sorry about the theme song, it just fit too well. Number 50. Greetings from Genosha, from Wolverine and the X-Men. Nightcrawler has always been one of my favorite X-Men for very clear reasons. He's funny, he has a great character design, he embodies hope and always likes to believe in other people, and it's just all around a fun character to have. I love how he's such a guy who looks like a demon and has been ostracized and attacked and called a demon, and yet he's such of a character that's full of hope and believes that humanity and mutants can go together despite everything that's been thrown at it. In the series Wolverine and the X-Men, Magneto is hosting an island called Genosha where mutants of all sorts come to live among him and his rule. He's basically the leader of a different nation. And Nightcrawler came to make sure that these mutants got there safely and now is interested in staying, to see if Magneto has actually turned over a new leaf.
This is not the Magneto I know. He wanted global domination, not this.
No, you're wrong. He did want this. He just wanted it for the entire world.
And in the first part of the episode, he starts to feel like he's actually found a place, as he doesn't have to run away from everybody. No one's pointing at him and saying monster, and everyone's just treating him like an equal. And he really feels at home, especially with Magneto's daughter, the Scarlet Witch, Wanda, treating him very nicely, and they start to get a little bit of an attraction towards one another. But of course, the more time he spends in Genosha, the more he starts to unravel Magneto's dark hidden secrets.
So this is your paradise, Magneto? You've imprisoned your own people!
Imprisoned is such a harsh word, Nightcrawler. They are being detained, reoriented, until they understand what Genosha really is.
In the meantime, at the X-Mansion, we see a shapeshifter, Mystique, has infiltrated the mansion, and all the X-Men are trying to have to find her, and yet, how do you find somebody that can look like anyone? However, the bulk of the episode is centered around Nightcrawler, and you really feel for him because once he does figure out everything that's going on, and he has to try everything in his power to escape, including teleporting across the ocean. And I don't mean like, here's the ocean, here's, you know, the United States, and whoop! I mean like teleport multiple times, and, you know, like, from as far as you can see. And it puts such a strain on his powers that when he finally gets to the X-Mansion, you think, he's finally there, he can warn everybody about Magneto's plans, but...
You must stop Magneto.
I'll get right on that, bub.
I have him.
Oh, so close! You really feel for Kurt and how he is a character that puts his all into everything he can, but in the end, still can't escape the darkness that surrounded him.
Welcome, mutants, to Genosha.
We are the cartoon heroes. We are the ones who gonna last forever.
Shriek from Batman Beyond. One of the best things that Batman Beyond did is when they made this show, they gave Terry his own villains. You know, like a lot of shows, it was like, okay, I want you to do future Batman. You're like, okay, what's our future version of the Joker? What's our future version of the Riddler? They're like, no, let's give our Batman his own villains, his own things he gets to fight against, and let's be as creative as all get out for him. And in my mind, their best villain was debuted in this episode. We start out with this man called Shriek, who is a sound technician who has developed a suit that can crush solid rock with just a blast of a sound wave. He wants to use it for demolition, but Powers knows it's not practical, and since he owns Shriek's research, he says to Shriek, hey, basically, if you want to keep working, you got to take care of a little problem for me, and that's Bruce Wayne. Powers wants to flatten this whole area of old Gotham so he can redevelop it for his own soulless business construct, as Bruce Wayne puts it. And if Bruce Wayne was out of the way, then Powers could move freely. What I really like about Shriek is that they gave him a good head on his shoulders. You know, he's not just a pawn. You know, like, he is a little bit of a pawn for Powers, but he's not just that, you know? They gave him his own identity, and they use this sound-powered suit to its fullest potential. They don't just have it as, oh, it shoots sound waves and that's it. They say, okay, what else can we do with that?
What's this do?
Don't touch that!
What was that?
Sound masking. See, sound moves in waves. The masker instantly plays back whatever sound it picks up, slightly out of phase. So the waves cancel each other out. No waves, no sound.
I like the look of it because you don't actually see anything. When he points his big bear claw fist at you and shoots something, you hear a noise and you see the dust picking up around it, but you don't actually see anything coming at you, which is honestly a terrifying thing. But they make his character smarter than just a blast suit. Like, he resorts to psychological warfare by hiding a radio in Bruce's bandage, trying to convince him to commit suicide. Man, the show is dark.
You know what you have to do.
Who are you? Why are you saying these things to me?
I want to help you. I'm you. No. Who else could I be?
You can't be me.
But this episode is also an episode where Terry shines. It's almost like Bruce and Powers are like the mentors putting their pieces on the board and having them face off against each other. Because as Bruce is hospitalized after their first encounters with Shriek, Terry has to go find out who he is on his own, which he does well and not so well at the same time. Because he has good ideas, but he kind of takes them a little bit too far and too risky. Like, for example, he figures out where the device was made at, and so he decides to sneak into the place dressed as a pizza delivery guy and pretending to give a wrong order. Shriek lets him in and starts telling him all about his stuff, but as soon as he starts pushing the questions a little bit too far, that's when Shriek gets suspicious and tries to kill him.
Wait, what about those, sound vibrations?
Sound vibrations?
Yeah, I heard about them the other day. Some of them can knock over a tree.
So they say.
So, you know anything about them?
Who are you? What do you really want?
Hey, man, I didn't mean nothing.
You want to know about sound vibrations? Would you like to see how they can split your skull?
It's like he had a good idea, but he pushed it just a little bit too far because he was acting on his own. Because if Bruce was there, he would have made sure he wouldn't have asked that dumb of a question. But the climax of the episode is really good because you had Batman and Shriek facing off against each other in a factory in this pretty much silent mode. I mean, he turns off all the sound around him, and so they're basically fighting each other without making any real sound, and it's really unnerving. And they just do a great job of making this a great Batman villain by making his character more than just the power and just the suit. They make him very intimidating, brilliant, but in the end, still able to fall due to his own powers. This episode just goes to show that silence sometimes can be deafening. Number 48. Legends of the Dark Knight by Batman the Animated Series. If there's one thing that Batman has more than any other character in comic books, is that Batman has such wildly different versions of himself. And I know you could say, well, Spider-Man has the Spider-Verse, but I mean like different versions, but still a version that other people consider to be Batman. You know, because Superman's always nice, Spider-Man is always quippy, Batman is always brooding, but no, he's not always brooding. Batman is the type of character that always runs the gamut of the type of characters he can be. He can be dark, he can be cheesy, he can be brooding, he can be utterly ridiculous, and even thanks to Zack Snyder, he can be a cold-blooded killer. Oh, let's be honest here, Tim Burton did that too. But this is an episode that paid homage to a few versions of The Dark Knight. The episode starts out with these three kids just walking around Gotham City at night. Boy, their parents must not love them. But just walking around Gotham City and talking about how they think Batman is.
The way I hear it, he isn't even human. He's like a giant pterodactyl beast with big fangs and talons. And when he sees a bad guy, he swoops down from the sky and carries him off. Scree! Scree!
Reality check, Nick.
And with that, we get two short stories on the different versions of the Batman, as well as our Batman from the animated series at the end. One of the stories pays homage to the silly Adam West version from the 60s, and the other to the dark and brooding of Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns. I like how this episode praises, and even in subtle ways, well, not too subtle now that we can tell, but in subtle ways condemn bad Batman stories. Because they come across this kid named Joel who talks about, oh, the best thing I love about Batman is the tight.
Hey, who's talking about Batman? I love Batman. All those muscles, the tight rubber armor, and that flashy car. I heard it can drive up walls.
Yeah, sure, Joel.
Yeah, if that's not a jab at Joel Schumacher, then sell me some magic beans, because I'll believe anything if I believe that. But I also like how the story is building up to something, how we get to see our version of Batman from the animated series at the end, and all the characters get to see who they think Batman is in the animated series Batman. And I think that's a very good way to say that this is the type of Batman that is the best of both worlds. It takes the silly and corny stuff from the old shows, but makes it serious enough that you can take it seriously in a dark and sometimes very psychological thing, but not too far. You know, it's riding the right line of cheesy and serious. That is Batman the Animated Series. It's not too dark, it's not too corny, it just puts them together and makes it the best of both worlds. And I think the point is, whether cheesy or brooding, no matter what you prefer, they still are 100% Batman. Except for Batman and Robin. That was nothing like Batman. Sure, Joel.
You don't get it, son. This isn't a trash heap. It's an operating table. And I'm the surgeon.
Number 47. Apocalypse Now, Superman the Animated Series. The show has been building up to Darkseid for a while, and we've been, you see dictators and these types of stoic, evil, deep-voiced characters many times before, and not all the times are they worth it. They can come across as boring, but to see Darkseid just basically step onto the battlefield, beat the crap out of Superman in no time flat.
You're a magnificent opponent, Superman. But even you must realize it's hopeless.
Darkseid.
I could easily destroy you now. And once you're gone, the pathetic beings of this planet won't have the will to resist me.
Yeah, that takes a little bit of a... okay. It takes you step back a little bit. And then, not only does he basically just defeat Superman easily, he then takes over the whole world in no time flat. It's a really great reveal of the power of this character, because Darkseid wasn't really a household name, okay? I mean, it wasn't, like, honestly, I didn't even know who Darkseid was till I played the video game Justice League Heroes. And after that, then I saw him in this show. But it was this show that made me realize how big of a deal he actually is. And I think the animators knew that Darkseid wasn't as big of a name as a lot of other characters, so they knew they had to make a good first impression. So what do? They just hit everything right out of the ballpark. They make him set up a nuclear reactor in the very first part of this episode, and then Superman has to do everything in his power to stop it from making a big burn hole in the center of the Earth. And then we have to face off against
Steppenwolf.
I look forward to adding a new trophy to my collection.
Okay, I'm just saying, I like this design for Steppenwolf more than the Justice League movie. Here he looks a little bit sophisticated and like a hunter that's all good for the sport. In this, he looks like, I don't know, Voldemort with a nose. However, the reason this episode is far back on the list, because I originally had it like top 10, top 20. And then I watched it again, and the only reason I had to put it back this far on the list is because Superman barely has anything to do with this episode. I mean, seriously, the first part of the episode is told from the point of view from mostly either Dan Turpin or Orion. And then once that's dealt with, the second part is mostly told from the point of view of Darkseid. I mean, Darkseid is the reason why this is on this list, because it's a great introduction for him. He comes in full force, he basically takes over the world, and then when Orion shows up and says, hey, basically this planet's under New Genesis' protection, you fight us, you gotta start a war, what you gonna do now, Darkseid? He decides to be a little bit of a poor loser.
Savor your moment of triumph, Superman. But remember, victory has its price.
When I first saw that, it shocked me. Like, shocked me. Because I just didn't think you were allowed to do this sort of thing, you know? I still thought that cartoons were operating on the rules that the good guys always win and none of the good guys die and the bad guys always lose. And go home and say, I'll get you next time, Superman. But no, he basically just straight up murders a guy and says, peace, I'm out, mic drop, see ya. But I think what really sells it is Superman's reaction. How he just goes nuts on the only thing left of Darkseid, his tank that he left there. And he just starts pummeling it and the whole city shakes because of it. And it's a great scene and a great moment, and I think the episode itself is really good. I just don't think Superman has much of a point in it. But the villain is very good, how they handle all the side characters are very good, and how they handle Dan Turpin's death is immensely good. I mean, anybody can show Superman pissed off, but to show him pissed off and for it to not feel out of character, that gives you a little bit of a slow clap. For me.
Goodbye, old friend. In the end, the world didn't really need a Superman. Just a brave one.
Number 46. The last Son of Krypton from Superman the Animated Series, parts 1 to 3. One of the things that you really got to give credit to the animators of Superman the Animated Series is that they really took their time in telling Superman's origin story. And they make the most of this three-parter, because the first part of this three-parter tells the Krypton origins. The second part of this three-parter tells his Kansas Smallville origins. And then the last part of this three-parter sets up his world as Superman in Metropolis. See, Smallville, it only took one episode to set up his Smallville background. You didn't need 10 seasons. But I will say that the main reason that this episode is on this list is because of the first part. Because I just love the way they set up Krypton. You know, Jor-El, they give a full-on character arc, and we really get to know what he was like as a person, rather than just a quick blurb at the beginning and say, "Hi, Krypton's gonna die, I told you so, bye," boom! We really get a whole story arc around him thinking that Krypton's gonna blow up, but Brainiac, and P.S., I love that they included Brainiac on Krypton. It adds this whole sort of dynamic, because like I remember people have said that the whole moral of the story of Superman is like Superman is the best possible alien that humanity can get, and Brainiac is the worst possible alien that humanity can get. And I think that's like so cool that you now intertwine their origins together with this whole thing where Brainiac basically lied to all of Krypton, saying, like, yeah, everything's going to be fine. And so since they relied on technology and not their own eyes, they just thought everything was going to be fine. It gives a bigger reason why, you know, the council didn't just follow up on Jor-El's claims, you know? It's not just Jor-El saying, the world is going to die, and they're like, no, I bet it's not. Although you are a renowned scientist and know all this stuff, but I bet it's not. It gives hey, Brainiac, is it going to die? No, I would tell you if it was going to die. See, we all good. But how they characterize Brainiac in this episode is really good too, because it's just like, he is all data, right? And so in his mind, since he has the data on all of Krypton, he is saving Krypton. As long as I'm safe, as long as the data on Krypton is safe, then Krypton is saved. But he doesn't understand the human element. You know, the Kryptonian element, if you will. He doesn't understand life because he isn't technically alive, he is a machine.
You're downloading. You're transmitting your memory to a satellite. You're saving yourself.
I must. After all, am I not the repository of all Kryptonian knowledge? Should I not be saved above all?
But Jor-El himself, I really just like, because, you know, he feels very confident in his work, and that every reading he gets says that, you know, Krypton is going to blow up, and every reading he gets says that, and he wants to be wrong so bad. He's like, I want to be wrong. I don't want to be right. I don't want this to be correct, but everything in my gut and everything that I've discovered points to this happening.
So, son, how does it feel not to have a worry in the world?
And you really just feel like, for Clark's parents, as they have to send him away to another unknown planet just because it's their only hope for escape now.
Goodbye, Kal-El.
And as they watch Krypton blow up, you just really feel the impact. It really hits you right here. The music, the score, you really feel the tragedy with it, and that's why I think the first episode is mostly why it's on this list. The other two episodes do a good job of setting Clark's origin up, setting his Smallville life up, his teenage years, his adult years, and setting up Lex Luthor. They do a great job doing that, except a little bit with Lois. I mean, like most of the other characters are hits right off the bat. I mean, Jimmy's a little boring, but he's always boring, except in Superman Earth 1. He's not boring in there. But anyways, like, you know, Lois, he says, Perry White says to Lois, hey, we got a new guy on the beat, and her first response is,
I want you to be the first to know I'm hiring a new guy on the city desk.
Is he cute?
You tell me.
Oh, hi.
Yeah. Because that's what Lois would be concerned about. If he's cute. I'm not saying that wouldn't be on the list, but that wouldn't be the first thing she'd think of. She'd be like, okay, is this guy going to get on my beat? Is he taking any of my stories? How can we trust him? What do you know about this guy, Perry? I can investigate him if you want. Any one of those would get around before. Is he cute? Now, this actress and the writers will get this character right eventually. It just took a little bit, but the other episodes themselves, I just find okay. It's really the first part that is really exceptional and really does a great job of setting up the tragedy of Krypton. It's just a great episode, jumping over all your expectations with a single bound.
Not another one.
No. The last one.
Number 45! The Man Who Killed Batman from Batman the Animated Series. What would happen if Batman died? Well, this is the episode that answers that question. We follow this little screw-up known by Sid. Sid the Squid, as his mobster name goes, and he goes to Rupert Thorne as he is telling him the story of how he killed Batman. And when I use quotation marks, I don't mean like, oh, did he actually do it? I do it because he didn't do it with great planning or strategic prowess. He accidentally tripped, and Batman tried to save him and fell off over the edge, and something blew up.
He came right at me. I was just trying to get away and he went over the side. Boom, whoosh, fired. Sorry.
But nobody else saw these shenanigans, so they look at Sid as the man who killed Batman. Even though he's clumsy, weak, not that bright. But because he's killed Batman, he goes from a nobody to somebody super fast, and he is not ready for the fame or recognition that comes with it. Because now it's grabbed the attention of everybody in the criminal underworld. He's targeted by low-level thugs who just want to rise through the ranks by taking out the guy who took out Batman, and even the Joker gets involved because he's a little peeved that somebody took out his best sparring buddy.
But those dreams were dashed by the Weasley little gunsel sitting there in our midst. The cowardly, insignificant Garnet who probably got lucky when Batman slipped on the slime trail this loser left behind him. This mound of diseased hyena filth who's not fit to lick the dirt from my spats!
This is just one of the funniest episodes of the animated series. It's partly because of the Sid the Squid character, because, you know, he's such a comedic idiot that it leads to a lot of funny scenarios, but the scene stealer in this episode is Mark Hamill. Because the Joker is just hilarious in every one of his lines. It makes me laugh so hard. I mean, my sides were hurting when I heard some of his lines. It was just so good on how hilarious he was.
Fun. Who's for Chinese?
And the Joker goes through a personal crisis because he has no idea what to make of himself anymore. I mean, how can you be the yang to a yin that's no longer there? In any case, all hail Sid the Squid, the man who killed Batman.
Toughest man in Gotham, he nearly off the bat. Set Thorne up. You made a fool out of the Joker.
Don't mess with him, man.
A big shot at last.
Number 44. Hereafter from Justice League. This is an interesting two-parter episode because the halves, while the stories are connected, what's going on in each half are nothing alike. The first half of the story is basically the death of Superman. We see that while the Justice League is fighting a bunch of Superman villains, Superman is taken out by, well, Toyman of all people, and is seemingly killed. And the episode is basically just the Justice League's and the world's reaction to the death of Superman. I really like how they handle the League's dealing with Superman's death, because everyone handles it differently. For example, Wonder Woman, the warrior, picks up Toyman and is ready to kill him. But the Flash stops her because he is now, I don't know if he even realizes this, but he's now the conscience of the group.
What are you gonna do to me?
I'm gonna punch a hole in your head.
We don't do that to our enemies.
Speak for yourself.
I'm trying to speak for Superman.
I like how quickly he goes from just joking around to realizing now that Superman is gone. He has to be serious, and he has to try to follow Superman's example. Hawkgirl, who doesn't really show any emotion to anybody, just flies off somewhere to have a cry all alone. Jon Stewart, while sad, he's a soldier, so he's more used to this sort of thing than some of the other characters are. And of course, Bruce is just in denial. I love how everybody else goes to his funerals, and heck, the League members are Superman's pallbearers, and yet all Bruce can really do is watch the funeral from the shadows. Because there's evidence that Superman might not have died. Now, in true fashion, it's flimsy evidence. I mean, it's not really evidence. There's just no scorch markings or incineration markings on anything that the beams have hit, meaning that, you know, the first law of matter cannot be created or destroyed. It has to be just turned into one state or another, and if it's gone, that means it's went somewhere. Now, while that is something to think about, it doesn't really give all that hope that Superman is alive. But I like when he's starting to lose hope, he does go to Superman's grave and he does say a few words.
I've got some things to say. I should have said them when you were here, but despite our differences, I have nothing but respect for you. I hope you know that. You showed me that justice doesn't always have to come from the darkness. I'll miss... What did you always call it, Clark? The never-ending battle?
I love how relieved he almost looks when, you know, supervillains start trying to take over Metropolis. It's almost like, oh my goodness, supervillains. I was gonna get emotional there for a second. Okay, back to punching people, Bruce. But there's also a lot of other great moments, like Lois slapping Lex in the face for daring to show up at his funeral, and then Lobo just comes right out of nowhere, and since he considers himself Superman's only equal, he thinks, well, I must take over the League now. So he just bursts right in and saying, yep, I'm part of the Justice League now, deal with it. It really is a great send-off to the Man of Steel. Of course, he's not actually dead. That is just the first half of the story. In the second half, we see Superman on some weird planet with a red sun, so he cannot use his powers. And we really get this interesting story of Superman having to trek through this weird, desolate planet with all these weird creatures on it, trying to find this, like, he has a communication signal with somebody else, and you're like, wait, nobody else was taken in that episode. What is he communicating with? But he's just trudging on, and he's fighting hard through this barren but deadly wasteland without his powers, and it really made Superman feel more relatable to me. And I know, yeah, sure, Superman with his powers is really relatable, like, in a way, yeah, I mean, you can relate to him as a person, but not so much as a being of power, but you really feel for him in this episode and what he's going through, and then you find out, you maniacs! You blew it up! This isn't some desolate planet! This is Earth! Millions and millions of years in the future! And the only person left on the planet is Vandal Savage. Of course he's there, because he can't die. But we also find out that it's Vandal Savage's fault for the world looking like this in the first place.
I destroyed the world. It was only a few months after you disappeared. I had just perfected an invention that gave me total control over gravity. I proclaimed myself master of the world.
The Justice League would never have allowed that.
True. They put up quite a fight. Green Lantern was the most difficult. I killed him right here. No. It was over there.
However, in an interesting twist, it shows the effect that destroying the world could have on a person's mind. Because after thousands of years of living in his doomed world that he doomed, he's really repented and really has hated his past self. I mean, think about it. If you think about yourself 10 years ago, you're a really different person than what you are now. Imagine 1,000 years, how much of a different person you would be. And he wants to make amends for his actions, which really leads to this interesting dynamic of Earth's greatest hero, Superman, with the person who destroyed the world, Vandal Savage, having to live with each other and ally with each other just because there's nobody else left in the world.
You're insane. True, but that doesn't mean I'm not good company. Say, you want to come over to my house? Like you've got something better to do.
You really feel for Clark, because first he has to deal with not having his powers, then he has to deal with the fact that he's in the future, and the world is destroyed because he wasn't there to save it. It's one of those times where you can really feel for Superman and the struggle that he's going through. I mean, the first part of this episode is all about telling you how great the man was. The second part is fulfilling the promise that it said. Hereafter is just a great episode.
Just you and me, huh? Guess this is where we find out who's top dog.
Number 43. Flashback from Static Shock. If I was to have like an animated superhero episodes award show, I would give Static Shock the award for biggest cojones ever. Because this was a show that would go to places that most shows wouldn't. I mean, you want an episode that deals with racism? Static Shock has it for you.
And now I see why Richie acts like a hood, Maggie. That kid's a bad influence. All his kind are.
Keep your voice down.
It's bad enough I gotta deal with them all day long. Now one of them's in my house.
How about an episode on school shootings?
What's that?
A gun.
Okay, put it down. That's not funny.
Lots of things aren't funny. Breaking my computer wasn't funny. Shoving me in the locker wasn't funny.
Okay, in this episode it was a community center, not a school, but close enough. I mean, that is pretty darn close. This show would just go to the places that other shows just didn't have the guts to go to. And the episode that I want to talk about is Flashback, that has Static Shock going back in time, meeting his dead mother. Well, before she was dead. From the very first episode of Static Shock, we have heard about Virgil's mother, that she was killed during one of the Dakota riots, and that she was an EMT that was just out there trying to help people, and tragically died doing that. But that has always been a part of him really wanting to be a superhero, that he's always wanted to help people like she did. And in this episode, the city is putting up a statue of all those who died during the riots, and his mother is one of them. And of course, this brings up all these pent-up feelings that he has been trying to control and put down, but they really just rise to the top.
You okay? Just thinking about her.
You miss her, huh?
It's worse than that, Rich. I think I'm starting to forget who she was. It's like it's been so long, I'm losing my memory of her.
Seriously?
Seriously.
And he comes in contact with this metahuman called Time Zone, who has the power, of course, to move forward and backward through time. And she's on the run from the supervillain Ebon, who of course wants to use her power for his own nefarious means. And when Static and his friend Gear get her powers under control, he asks if she would take him back in time so he could save his mother.
Please, we gotta try it. For Dakota. And for the people who lost their lives that night.
Oh. Right.
Hey, doesn't my opinion count for anything?
Sure. Of course it does.
Then I say we go. I told you, I want to do good things with my powers, and this sounds as good as it gets.
And when he does go back in time to the night that she died, he has to face the fact that he really couldn't stop her from helping people. I love how his mom really believes him right away as soon as he tells him everything. She's not like, no, you're a crazy person, leave me alone. She really can see her boy in this man that's standing before her.
I don't understand all of it, but if you are my son, I'm so proud of what you're doing. Imagine my boy, a superhero.
Thanks, Mom. But you're the real hero.
And she's actually really proud of what he's doing and how he is helping other people. And that's just something that I found so heartwarming, you know? It's like, you wonder if, you know, Bruce's parents ever could see him as Batman, if they would be proud of the work he was doing, or if they would be sad that this is what he's doing with the rest of his life. So enabled to see his passed away mother tell him, I'm so proud of what you're doing and the man that you've become. It's such a nice, it's a nice moment. But I think the best part of the story is the fact that he basically tells his mother that if you go out there and help people today, you will die. You will die. And she's like, no, there's nothing he can say to her to stop her from helping people. And that is really inspirational because, you know, it's like you always have times in these stories like, there was nothing I could do to stop her short of tying her to a wall. You know, there was nothing you could do to stop her. And I think that's true because there wasn't anything that Virgil could do to really stop her. She had the will to always go over and help people no matter what the risk.
In my time, you got hurt tonight. And I don't want that to happen again.
I see.
So stay up here tonight, okay? Please?
But Virgil, people are hurting down there. I just can't hide no matter what the risk.
And in the end, he isn't able to save her. She still ends up dying, and he has to go home, and the only thing he can really take away from that whole experience was to try to apply her fighting spirit to his life and to never let anyone stop him from helping people. It's a great episode about facing the past and knowing that some things you can never change, but it's also amazing to show you that not all amazing heroes wear tights.
It wasn't like your mother to hide from danger, Virgil. She was dedicated to her work and to helping people. Nothing would stop her from doing that. And she had a stubborn streak too, just like her kids.
Got that right.
You know, the co-workers on the scene that night say that all she kept talking about was how proud of you she was. She kept calling you her superhero.
Number 42. Task Force X from Justice League Unlimited. This is the episode where you finally get to see things from the point of view of the bad guys. That's right, this is the Suicide Squad episode in everything but name, because they didn't want to call it Suicide Squad on a kids' cartoon show. So it was Task Force X. In this episode, we follow Deadshot, Plastique, Captain Boomerang, even the Clock King as technical analysis, all join the government under, shall we say, forceful measures.
How did you enjoy your last meal?
Not bad. The asparagus was a little overcooked, but the lobster was perfect.
It was laced with explosive nanites.
Excuse me?
That's right. Any escape attempt and, well, you're gonna look kind of funny trying to run away with no head.
Colonel Rick Flag is the commander of the mission and the only one that seems to be there by choice. What is the mission? To invade the Justice League headquarters. Oh yeah, no biggie. I like this episode a lot because it does little touches to make you feel like you are seeing this from the point of view of the bad guys. For example, the humor, while not crude, is definitely less family-oriented.
Plastique, you're setting the charge and Superman walks in the room.
You said he wouldn't be there.
Last minute change in the duty roster. Superman's got the drop on you. What do you do?
Before or after I changed my shorts.
But the reason I really like this episode is the places where the bad guys are willing to go that the heroes are not. And it's those small things that get them through this episode, as those are the only things that they have as an advantage over a station filled with superheroes. They take hostages, they fight dirty, they even turn on their own so they can complete the mission.
Plastique!
C'est la vie.
I mostly just like this episode because it's just fun to see things from the villain's point of view. They wargame out the scheme and go through every possible scenario. And everybody there has a specific purpose. Heck, I even like that they added Clock King there as the person who is making sure everything goes precisely on schedule. It's really just a nice touch. And when you find out what they're trying to steal, it actually raises the stakes and evens the odds a little bit. Task Force X is not a team I would ever want to join, but to be honest, if I was offered, I probably wouldn't be actually given a choice. But I do have a choice on what episodes I like, and I like this one quite a bit.
First, Captain Atom. His abilities include flight, super strength, and absorption of radioactivity. Green Lantern. His power ring enables him to create objects by thinking about them. Then there's Jean Jones, the Martian Manhunter.
What about him?
Super strength, flight.
And he's a shapeshifter, and he can read minds. I've run into him before.
The chair's starting to look better every minute.
Number 41! Bereft from Young Justice. We sometimes take our basics memories for granted. You know, just the little things that we know as if, what did we do today? In this episode, we see this team come in confrontation with a psychic named Simon who wipes out all their memories over the last 6 months.
Someone's hacked our link.
Simon can't see you. Simon can't catch you. But Simon can make you all forget!
leaving our team of heroes wandering the deserts with no memory of how they got there. Heck, for some people like McGann, they don't even know how they're on Earth. Heck, for Superboy, he wasn't even alive 6 months ago. Kid Flash and Artemis having a second chance at a first impression where they're not annoyed with each other. In fact, actually seem to have an eye out for each other.
Seen Kid Flash on the news. He doesn't wear black.
A little unclear on that myself. What about you? A Green Arrow fixation?
Who put me in this?
Wow, I am not touching that with a 10-foot,
I like the way this episode starts because it doesn't start with showing these characters losing their memories. It just starts with them in a desert and them having no idea who each other is and what they're doing here. And we're a little confused, like, wait a minute, what do you mean you don't know who they are? We've seen you guys in episodes before. Is this out of order? But then, of course, as the episode unfolds, we slowly unravel and get to see all the stuff that has transpired. This was also the episode that I really started to find Miss Martian interesting, because you could see her potential as a character and her relationships that she'd built with Superboy and how that was influencing her and how that helped her in her battle against Simon, which is actually a really cool battle since it's all in the head. They use different colors to saturate, leaving it a little weird space. But I like how Miss Martian and Simon use their minds to battle each other. It really makes it for an interesting fight. And then it cuts out to them just standing there staring intensely. It's pretty cool.
No! I won't let it happen again!
Not really your call, little girl.
It's a great look into the minds of our heroes as they get to meet for the first time all over again. And also, partly because of this line.
Whoa. This is so cool!
We look ridiculous! Quit touching yourself!
I'm sorry. I find it funny. In any case, I think this episode is filled with interesting ideas, paced really well, and has a very satisfying conclusion. Bereft is a great concept that you won't soon forget.
You're strong, and I'm stubborn. Together!
Together. Get out of my head!
I know what you're thinking. Hey, that's not 50. What do you want there, laser dude? Yeah, it's not 50, but it is a good start, and the reason that I had this, because you can already tell this video is super long. Can you imagine 50 in this whole thing? It'd be a fucking, it's like, I don't have it all timed out yet, but it's turning out to be like a 4-hour-long video. So, I'm spacing it out for you, and once it's all uploaded, I'll upload the master copy. But so be sure to tune in next week for the next bunch of episodes from 40 to 31. Thanks for watching. Tune in next time.